That word conservative has become culturally ingrained because of negative propaganda of the left to mean racist. Stop using the word. Get rid of it.
I'm not sure you care that much about Alabama football, but he does care about the Lord Jesus. He cares about articulating the message, and he's had conversations with Rush Limbaugh, and I inadvertently credited to Rush Limbaugh some of the insights he has had for years. And so he corrected me on that he had been preaching this language deal way before Rush caught on. So if you would welcome to the stage K. Carl Smith.
Yes, thank you so much. Bob, it's tough being an Alabama fan when you realize you can't win championships every year. Look, it's an honor and pleasure for me to be here. I don't have much time with you, so I'm going to quickly introduce myself. I have some slides to go through. I will not be able to touch on all the slides, but I want to whet your appetite about messaging. Tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm a native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I'm from the great red state of Alabama. Okay, I'm a former Army officer. Before my first look for Lieutenant Colonel, I decided to take my youth and my 16 years on active duty, so I completed my service obligation. I didn't retire, because the word retirement is not in the Bible. I completed my service obligation in the United States Army in 1996 before my first look Lieutenant Colonel. For 2 years, I served as the advisor to President Trump's campaign for coalition outreach, Black Voices for Trump, okay? Let me start by asking you this question here. I write a weekly opinion piece in 1819news.com in Alabama, which is a conservative news source. So I wrote this article entitled, How to Awaken Your Marxist Indoctrinated Family and Friends. And let me ask you these questions, see if any of these situations apply to you. Your family member or friend went off to college, returned home as a devout Marxist. Your Marxist indoctrinated family and friends are calling you a racist. You find yourself cut out of your grandchild's life because of your conservative values. You have considered taking your Marxist indoctrinated grandchild or child out of your will. To keep the peace, you live by the rule not to discuss politics during family get-togethers. You bite your tongue or disappear to the other room whenever politics is discussed. You're no longer on speaking terms with your closest family and friends. You're unfriended on social media. You're unwelcome at Thanksgiving dinners. Look, if we're going to save our nation, if we're going to bring some healing to our families, you and I, as conservatives, got to become better messengers of liberty. We don't have a message problem. We have a messaging problem. And the left has been cleaning our clock. When you tell somebody you're a conservative, you just grew 7 heads. And the attack is on. See, if we're going to save this nation now, we got to be on the offense all the time. And we got to understand what we're dealing with. Now, I hate to give this guy any credit. This is Saul Alinsky. But he hit something right on the head, on the nail, when he said one time, he who controls the language controls the masses. And that's what we're dealing with. That word conservative has been demonized by the left. If you identify yourself as a black conservative, a Reagan conservative, or a Christian conservative, that's what you're saying, but that's not what people are hearing. Black conservative, you're a black racist. Reagan conservative, you're a Reagan racist. If you say you're a constitutional conservative, now you are a racist because they demonize the word constitution too. So we're on the defense. We got to be the offense all the time. So the word conservative, you agree with that? You say the word conservative or racist, you shout conservatives, you shut them down. They take away our tongue. We got to save this nation, but we're going to save it by you and I becoming better messengers of liberty, where we have conversations with people and not confrontations. We got to awaken them about the value of liberty. You follow me? That word conservative has become culturally ingrained because of negative propaganda of the left to mean racist. Stop using the word. Get rid of it. I've been advocating this since 2008. Stop using the word conservative. Why keep doing the things you know going to lead to failure? Stop doing it. I know you don't like hearing me say this, but you know you agree. You got to agree with me. They've demonized the word. Stop using the word conservative and find another way to identify yourself. Now, let me set this up for you. Do you recognize this gentleman here? In 2018, during the second hour of his show, I'm going to play this audio for you, what Rush Limbaugh has to say. I'm going to come back and summarize how this whole thing transpired, okay? So listen up.
I don't like having to say this, but being honest with you and with myself is paramount. And I can tell you, and you know this without me telling you, that if conservatism and liberalism are brands, the left has succeeded in destroying the brand of conservative. All you have to say the word conservative, and they think you're talking about a Nazi or a racist. Pushing conservatism is not the answer. So what I would suggest to you, when you're out and about and you're doing, if you run into an occasion where you have the opportunity to talk politics, people that don't agree with you, do not use the word conservative. Do everything else, but don't call yourself that. Don't promote it. We've got a brand problem. It's time I hate it. I hate having to admit it. Get rid of it. Stop calling yourself that. Just be one. Just talk to people as one. You know what I think? I think you're going to find, if we do this, that you're going to have far more people agree with your solutions than will disagree if you don't identify yourself first as a conservative when talking. Nobody needs to abandon conservatism. It's just stop labeling everything we think or do as conservative and just do it.
So you see now Rush Limbaugh agrees with me. So how this whole thing set up, several months before he made this comment, I got a call from the Rush Limbaugh show. The exec producer's on the phone and Rush is on the phone, and they said to me, "We like what you're doing, keep it up, we're watching you." So the question is, okay, Carl, if you're suggesting we should drop the word conservative to identify ourselves, how should we identify ourselves, okay, Carl? I'm glad you asked the question. Let me answer that question by telling you this story. As I tell you this story in my testimony, you may see yourself in my testimony. Several years ago, I was invited to a friend's home to watch our favorite football team play on television, Bob, Roll Tide. And that night, the subject of politics came up. When I shared with my friends that I was a conservative, the attacks began. One after another, they called me everything but a child of God. Uncle Tom, foot shuffler, house nigger. Your parents must be disappointed in you. How could you do such a thing? Their insults ran the gamut. I went home that night thinking and mostly praying about how can I trump this race card, pun intended. How can I be on the offense, not the defense? How can I inspire them to vote their values? Because many of them are more conservative than I am. Well, after a period of reading and research, God pricked my spirit, and he helped me develop something called the Frederick Douglass Republican Engagement Strategy. So a year later, I invited those same black friends of mine in my home to watch our favorite football team play on television. And reluctantly, they all came. And the subject of politics happened that night, came up. When I shared with they said, "K. Carl, he's a conservative." I said, "Wait a minute, I'm more than a conservative. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, and I believe in the life and power and values of Frederick Douglass. Respect for the U.S. Constitution, the respect for life. I believe the limited power of government, economic prosperity, free speech. parental choice when it comes to education, religious liberty, the right of people to keep and bear arms. When I shared that with them, all of them started talking about how they were Frederick Douglass Republican too. The strategy worked. For the first time in my life, I had the confidence, the knowledge, and the skill on how to engage my family members, my friends, and people who did not look like me regarding my conservative values. Before I leave this platform of the day, with the 5 minutes I have left, you're going to know how to employ this strategy and be on the offense all the time, okay? This whole strategy is based on the liberty message of Frederick Douglass, who I consider as America's greatest liberty messenger, writer and thinker about liberty, and it's also based on the diversity outreach strategy of the Apostle Paul. When we really think about it, the Apostle Paul was a diversity outreach specialist. I can't get into much of that now. I got 5 minutes left. This Frederick Douglass Republican engagement strategy is not of human origin. No man gave it to me. I was not taught it. I received it by divine revelation from Jesus Christ. I'm going to share it with you. Frederick Douglass, I'm not going to get too much into his life, but I want to share with you, thank God that we have the literary legacy of Frederick Douglass to refute the lies and the false rhetoric of the left. We got to leverage that. If you want to awaken your Marxist indoctrinated families and friends, leverage the liberty message of Douglass. Let me give you an example one time. Douglass said this about the Constitution. Douglass said, the Constitution reads, we the people. It does not read, we the white people, Douglass said. Douglass said, if black folks are considered to be people, then they should be benefactors of the Constitution. Douglass said, the problem is not with the Constitution, the problem is with the application of the Constitution. The problem is not with the Bible, the problem is in how the Bible is applied. Frederick Douglass is the bridge that connects conservative to all Americans. Right now it's conservative because we got a brand problem. We're not connecting. We got to get on Douglass's back and ride. Okay? Most people indoctrinated into Marxism have never heard the liberty message of former slave Frederick Douglass. Quickly, I was advisor of President Trump for 2 years. I live in Alabama, and one time I had to travel from Alabama to D.C. for a board meeting. Most of the time I fly Delta. When you fly Delta, you got to go to Atlanta, get the connecting flight. I'm in Atlanta airport wearing my Trump cap. Black man in Atlanta wearing a Trump cap. Now, my Trump cap didn't say Make America Great. My Trump cap had the presidential seal on it, had Trump 45 on the bib on the back of the cap. See, I'm trying to have a conversation, not a confrontation. So I'm at my gate. Right in front of me were 3 members of BLM. They looked at me, I looked at them, they looked at me, I looked at them, they looked at me, and I said, how you like my cap? And they said to me, they said, oh, you support President Trump? I said, I support anybody that wants to do right and nobody that wants to do wrong. That's a quote from Douglass. Then we started talking about the Constitution. They started talking about the 3/5 clause. Let me speed up here. They believed that the 3/5 clause meant that blacks are 3/5 of a human being. I told them what Douglass said. They said, we never heard that before. Did I have an impact on them? I think so. Why? Because each one of them bought a copy of my book. So to become a Frederick Douglass is not based on colors, based on values. A Frederick Douglass Republican is based on values. What are those values? Let me go through them quickly. We call these the 12 life empowering values of Frederick Douglass. Respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life, the belief in the limited power of government, personal responsibility, economic prosperity, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, free speech, religious liberty, women's suffrage, women's rights, women's suffrage, okay, at that point in time in Douglass' life. Education, parental choice, immigration, the right to vote. Douglass wrote about each one of these values. So when you leverage the message of a former slave, how can you win an argument with a former slave about his love for liberty, about his admiration for the founding fathers and the Constitution? The left has no answer for Frederick Douglass, and they never will. Let me go through quickly. Let me contrast these two gentlemen's lives. Here's some interesting things about these two gentlemen. Both of these guys were born in 1818. Karl Marx was born in Germany, never had a real job in his life. His daddy was a lawyer. He married into money. His business partner, supported him. Douglas was born into slavery. Karl Marx was a theorist about oppression. Douglas had real life experiences about oppression. The left has Karl Marx in the game. We got to get Douglas in the game. Give him the ball. Don't call any special plays. Just let him play. Douglas is the answer. We should be thankful we got the literary legacy of Frederick Douglass to refute the lies of the false rhetoric of the left. 20 seconds left. Me go through this. I gotta go. I'm not gonna cover critical race theory. I can do that some other time. But if you want to dismantle the critical race theory, you leverage what Douglas had to say. Douglas wrote about, the critical race theory has like 3 major assertions: that blacks are perpetual victims of white racism. Douglas wrote about that. One of the things is that the whites are inherently racist, can't be redeemed for being a racist. Douglas wrote about that. Oh my God. When you leverage what Douglas had to say, we can save this nation in 1 or 2 election cycles. All right, I'm not going to go through what Douglas said. We'll talk about that later. We have a 98% success rate when we engage someone. The 2% we can't get to, those are the ones that have been making the Kool-Aid. If you had a crowbar, you can't get a good idea in their head. We got to make this a young person's movement. This young man here, they're studying the 2 political parties one day in class, and once they studied the 2 political parties, they went around the classroom. I'm almost done, Bob. They went around the classroom and asked the child, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat or a Republican? They got this young man here. They said, Kyle, are you a Democrat or Republican? He said, I'm neither. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. Then I got a call from the school because my son said that. I got to go down there. So, quickly, I got some books here that explain this whole philosophy. I have some here. The books are free. The autograph in each book is $20. I'm out of here. Thank you so much.